strong winds had done to public and private property, I realized again how everything is changing. As a little boy in the village, I always perceived the 4-year period, and in the stormy rain, huge storms and whirlwinds were really exceptional. Today, they become an integral part of our lives. Everywhere where it is possible, the government provides a helping hand in return. I also believe that the state humanitarian aid, which is managed by the Ministry of Labor, has worked and is working effectively. Let me return to the weak state testimony of St. Cyril and Methodius. Anti-national, anti-state, and anti-government media and the same opposition are as senseless. The heritage of the Solonian brothers of St. Cyril and Methodius forms one of the basic value pillars of the politics of the current government and strongly influences me in many important political decisions. Finally, it is the Constitution that, in its preamble, urges everyone to respect the spiritual heritage of St. Cyril and Methodius and the legacy of Great Moravia. Our politics has a valuable content, and regardless of the emptiness, in many respects, liberalism and progressivism cannot compete with us. What alternatives to our constitutional definition of masculinity as the only union of men and women are offered by liberals and progressives? What can they offer more intelligently than we, who claim that there are only 2 heads, a man and a woman, and we want to put this in the Constitution? My brother lives with his own hands, and he has a healthy mind for distribution. He would say that liberal and progressive politics are worth as shallow as a stream in the courtyards. And it is really shallow. Dear friends, I am not surprised by what our opponents, whom I lovingly call spiritual homeless people, are doing with my statement on July 5th at 9 o'clock. I prepared it carefully. First of all, I knew what I wanted to say. It is funny and annoying for me, but I even have the feeling of a carried hump when I see the distrust in the media trying to correct my stupid speech like a pig in a gate. They know very well why I do not want to accept not even such a basic truth that St. Cyril and Methodius did not build a railway between the West and the East, which is now becoming a reality and which our liberals and progressives support so much. It would be hard for us to find a truer story about the connection of the East and the West in history, when we realize where the Solon brothers came from and what they did. If you come across my stupid statement and the effort to marginalize and underestimate it for any purpose, please find a few minutes and listen to it to make your own judgment based on common sense, not on hatred and ignorance. The trial with my husband began on Tuesday, and he wanted to kill me for my political views. As I have publicly stated several times, I did not actively participate in the investigation, and I will not do so even in the state of criminal proceedings. David Lindner, the legal representative of the Court of Appeals, personally and in a qualified manner represents me as a victim. I believe that I will not have to apologize to the court because the court lost the case from my interrogator. After the attempt to murder me, I did not have any injuries, and I continue to fulfill the duties of the chairman of the government. I let the attacker go, and I will not demand anything from him. The problem is elsewhere. The anti-government media and opposition politicians see a purge in the trial because the court will not take their participation in the attack because there is no evidence for this. However, there is irrefutable evidence that the attacker was an opposition activist, that he knew representatives of the opposition, primarily the Democratic Party, that only the screams of slogans from opposition anti-government demonstrations that he is equally possessed by hatred. The attacker is a product of opposition hatred, its extended hand, a tool for pushing someone away. The opposition and the media have not shown even a pinch of respect for what has happened in a year since the attack. They beat me, the direction, the government, with even greater fury and impudence. I dare say that in the last 12 months they have made me and my colleagues monsters of such a caliber that they did not allow it, not even until May 15th, 2024. Therefore, it is only a matter of time when we will look at another murderous attack. and I put forward a desire to have as much happiness with us as I had with my misfortune. It would be just and right if all those who made it would sit next to the attacker and see what hatred, represented by intolerant politicians and deceitful and delusional media, can produce. Dear friends, despite the fact that it is the holiday season, some topics are especially acute. With the whole team on a daily basis, I am dealing with the position of the government to stop all flows of gas from January 1st, 2028. All interested parties confirm that this purely ideological decision of the Commission, made only for Ukraine, will have personally harmful consequences. The question will be whether there will be enough gas for our domestic consumption. It is clear that the price of gas for households and industries is significantly increased. The questions are open: who will compensate us for the unavoidable compensation of high prices of gas, and who will pay us a casual loss in the court dispute that we will stop taking Russian gas from January 1st, 2028, although we have a contract with the Russian Gazprom until 2034. All for Ukraine? Why? These are the questions that I address without any hesitation among the international interests of Slovakia, where we cannot just give up. Although the Commission's proposal to stop all Russian gas is a typical sanction, the Commission does not propose it as a sanction because when accepting sanctions, the consent of all 27 member states of the Union is required, and the Commission knows well that it would never get such support. Therefore, the Commission proposes this proposal as a legislative act, for approval of which most votes are enough, i.e., it is not unanimous. Someone may now ask correctly why, if the Commission does not need the consent of all 27 member states, it does not postpone its proposal without being interested in the legislative amendments of Slovakia. The answer is simple. At the same time, the proposal to stop the flow of Russian gas is on the table, as well as the proposal of the 18th package of sanctions against the Russian Federation, for approval of which, as I have already mentioned, it is necessary to be unanimous. Many member states of the European Union and the entire Commission attach great importance to this package of sanctions. My opinion on the sanctions is known. I will come back to it later. Now, however, it is necessary to say that we refuse to vote for the 18th package of sanctions, and we refuse to vote by resolving our concerns about the price of gas, its supply, and the compensation that will be caused to us by stopping the flow of Russian gas from 1st January 2028. Since it has not yet come to this, yesterday our Commissioner received an instruction from Brussels not to support the 18th package of sanctions. You know, no one can win 100-0 in this battle, but our concerns must be eliminated in the essential issues. Slovakia is a sovereign country, and I cannot allow unnecessary ideological gestures, such as stopping the flow of Russian gas, to cause huge damage to our country. Yes, I must admit that the European Commission is trying to find a solution for Slovakia. We are close to an agreement on some open issues, and we are still far from some of them. However, we cannot work under pressure and in an atmosphere of unnecessarily strong statements. In any case, I wish to reach an agreement with the Commission which would lead to such an amendment of its proposal to stop the flow of Russian gas, which would protect us from the worst possible consequences. The 18th package of sanctions against the Russian Federation is tragicomic for me. It does not affect our Slovak interests. Each package, whether it is the 14th, 15th, or 18th, stands for a breakthrough, irreplaceable package. How many such breakthrough, irreplaceable packages will still have to come? The sanctions policy against the Russian Federation does not work. In the NATO General Secretariat, Mark Rutte talks about strengthening the Russian Federation in the war against Ukraine. Unfortunately, the ideology and obsession with Russia wins in the European Union over common sense. In this crazy and irrational atmosphere, in the age of arms race, I, as president of the government, have two essential roles. First, not to allow Slovakia to be dragged into senseless military adventure, and secondly, to do everything possible to protect Slovakia and its citizens from basic cultural and ethical issues to the entire energy sector. If we are a member of the EU and NATO, it is not possible to say no to everything that comes from the kitchen of these organizations, as some Slovak politicians imagine. On the other hand, I am a guarantor that we will not say yes to everything that comes from the EU and NATO, just so that we do not stick out of line. On the subject of Russian influence and its complete withdrawal from January 1st, 2028, I will hold a special expert press conference tomorrow or the day after tomorrow so that we Slovak public can provide as much information as possible. And on Saturday, many of us will meet in the Old District at the celebrations of the declaration of the unification of the Slovak Republic, another important milestone in the construction of the Slovak statehood. I would like to thank the mayor and our ambassador, Janko Budmanicki, for his natural respect for this important event every year leading to dignified celebrations. Despite the fact that Slovakia needs a peaceful reign, we believe that on Saturday evening we will not need a reign. Goodbye, dear friends.